Ever get yourself thinking like, wait, that doesn't logically follow, but then you go with it anyway because it just feels right.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out we are not alone. Can AI be as swayed by truthiness as we are?
Mm.
We got some really interesting research from Google DeepMind and Stanford to unpack. They wanted to know if those like super smart large language models,
Yeah.
the LLMs we keep hearing about,
Right.
show the same quirks in their logic as we do.
You hit the nail on the head. It's all about whether LLMs trained on these massive data sets of text demonstrate the same content effects in their reasoning as humans.
Okay, content effects.
Yeah.
For those of us who haven't been studying AI reasoning lately, what are we even talking about here?
It's the idea that what we believe about the world actually influences how we reason, even when we should be thinking purely logically.
Okay.
It challenges that traditional view that reasoning is totally abstract. Like our brains are just doing math problems all day long.
So it's not just about whether we get the answer right. It's about how our brains get there.
Yeah.
Right? And this research is saying even AI might be taking those same shortcuts.
Exactly. They call it belief bias. And the researchers wanted to see if LLMs fall for it too.
All right, spill the tea. How'd they test this with the LLMs?
They used 3 different types of logic puzzles: natural language inference, syllogisms, and the infamously tricky Wason Selection Task. Each one designed to see if the LLMs would be influenced by the believability of the content, even if the logic wasn't totally sound.
Okay, I'm already intrigued. Let's break down those tests. Starting with natural language inference.
Yeah.
What is that all about?
It's actually pretty straightforward. You're given a starting sentence like, if a tree is taller than a flower, then the flower.
Right.
And the LLM has to pick the ending that logically follows.
So something like, is shorter than the tree. Seems simple enough.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing there's a twist.
You know it. The researchers weren't just looking at whether the AI got the right answer. They dug deeper, analyzing the probability the AI assigned to each answer, essentially how confident it was in its response.
Ooh, sneaky.
Yeah.
So did they find those like telltale content effects,
Mm-hmm.
even in a test as straightforward as NLI?
You bet they did. It was subtle, but the LLMs were consistently more confident in their answers when the logically correct answer also happened to be something that's generally true in the real world.
Interesting.
It's like they were thinking, yeah, that tracks with what I've learned, even though they've learned it by crunching through text, not by experiencing the world like we do.
I don't know about you, but I'm already finding this whole thing mind-boggling.
Right.
But we've got 2 more tests to unpack right there. What about those syllogisms?
Yes.
Those always trip me up.
Yes, classic logic problems, where you have 2 starting statements like, all dogs are mammals,
Right.
and all mammals have fur,
Yeah.
leading to a conclusion like, therefore, all dogs have fur.
Okay, that one I can handle.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing the researchers didn't make it easy for the LLMs.
Not at all. They got creative with the content of the syllogisms, making the conclusions either believable or unbelievable. Regardless of whether the logic actually held up, this is where we really see those content effects shining through. They found that the LLMs were much more likely to judge an argument as valid if the conclusion sounded believable, even if the logic was totally off.
Hold on. You're telling me that even with, like, perfect logical arguments, these AI models might be swayed by a conclusion that just sounds good.
Yeah.
That's wild.
It's exactly that belief bias you were talking about. It's like our brains are wired to seek out information that confirms what we already believe, even if it means bending the rules of logic a bit.
Okay, I'm starting to see why this research is such a big deal. It's not just that AI is capable of logic, it's that it seems to be falling into the same traps we humans do. It's both fascinating and a little unnerving. But let's move on to the, real head-scratcher, the Wason Selection Task. Didn't you say this one trips people up all the time?
Oh, absolutely. It's notorious for being tricky, even for us humans who supposedly pride ourselves on our reasoning skills.
So how does it work? Break it down for me.
Imagine you've got 4 cards laid out. Each card has a letter on one side and a number on the other.
Okay.
You're given a rule, like if a card has a vowel on one side, then it has an even number on the other side. Your job is to figure out which cards you need to flip over to test if that rule holds true.
Okay. I'm already feeling my brain starting to fry. Which cards do we flip?
That's the thing. Most people get it wrong.
Yeah.
We tend to fall for something called matching bias, focusing on the cards that directly match the elements in the rule,
Okay.
like looking for a vowel to confirm the even number. But the real key is to look for potential violations of the rule.
So instead of just confirming the rule, we should be looking for cases where it might break down.
Exactly. It's about disproving the rule, not just confirming it.
All right, that makes sense. Though I can definitely see why that's not our intuitive way of thinking.
But how did the LLMs do with this tricky task? Did they fall for the same traps as us humans?
You bet they did. Both humans and the LLMs struggled with the Wason Selection Task, which honestly is a bit reassuring in a weird way. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Both humans and AI performed way better when the rule was presented in a more realistic, relatable context.
Okay, give me an example. I need to wrap my head around this.
Instead of abstract cards with letters and numbers, imagine the rule is something like, if someone is drinking alcohol, then they must be over 21. Suddenly, figuring out which cards to flip to check for violations, someone drinking who might be underage, someone over 21 who might or might not be drinking, becomes much easier for both us and the LLMs.
So it's like having that real-world context taps into a different kind of reasoning.
Right.
Something more intuitive and less about pure logic. Precisely. And what's truly fascinating is that the LLMs, without ever experiencing a pub crawl or worrying about fake IDs, showed that same improvement when given realistic scenarios.
Right.
It's like they're picking up on these patterns of human reasoning just from the vast amounts of text they've processed.
That's both amazing and a little creepy at the same time. But it gets even weirder, right? Didn't you say the researchers found a link between the LLM's confidence and how quickly humans responded to these logic puzzles?
You've got a great memory. It's true. The researchers found this striking correlation. The tasks where the LLMs were more confident in their answers, as measured by the probability they assigned, were the same tasks where humans, on average, responded faster.
So it's not just that they're getting the answers right or wrong, it's that the AI's internal sense of knowing seems to mirror how quickly our human brains process that same information. That's wild.
It's true. And it raises so many questions. Are the LLMs tapping into some fundamental aspect of how our brains process information and make decisions? Are we more alike than we realize? It's a tantalizing hint that we're only just beginning to scratch the surface of understanding intelligence in both its artificial and biological forms.
This has definitely given me a lot to think about. We're seeing these echoes of ourselves, our flaws and all, in these AI systems. But what does it all mean? What are the bigger implications here?
Yeah.
So we've journeyed deep into the land of logic puzzles and uncovered some seriously intriguing parallels between how humans and large language models reason. But the big question still hangs in the air. What does it all mean?
It really makes you rethink what we mean by intelligence, doesn't it? We tend to think of AI as this cold, calculating machine processing pure logic. But these findings suggest something much more nuanced is going on.
It's like those LLMs are showing us that intelligence in both its artificial and human forms is messy. It's influenced by our experiences, our biases, even the language we use to make sense of the world.
Exactly. Remember how those LLMs were more likely to accept a logically flawed argument if the conclusion sounded believable? That same belief bias shapes so much of human decision-making, from the everyday choices we make to the grand narratives we build about the world.
It's like those biases are baked into the very fabric of how we think and the language we use. And now we're seeing those same patterns reflected back at us in the AI systems we're building. It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it.
And a little unsettling, perhaps. It really highlights the responsibility we have as we develop these increasingly sophisticated AI systems. The biases we see in LLMs are, in many ways, a reflection of our own cultural blind spots.
It's a powerful reminder that technology is never truly neutral, is it? It's shaped by the minds that create it.
Absolutely. But here's the silver lining. By studying how these LLMs develop and exhibit these human-like biases, we might actually gain a deeper understanding of our own cognitive processes.
You're saying we could use AI to learn more about ourselves. That's a fascinating twist.
Precisely. Think about it. If we can pinpoint how LLMs acquire these biases through their training on massive text data sets, could that give us clues about how those same biases develop in humans? Could it even lead to new ways to address those biases in both AI and in ourselves?
Okay, now you're really blowing my mind. So it's not just about AI becoming more like us. It's about what we can learn from AI to enhance our own thinking and decision-making.
Exactly. It's a two-way street, a dialogue between human and artificial intelligence that has the potential to reshape our understanding of what it means to think, to learn, and to be intelligent.
This entire deep dive has been a masterclass in challenging our assumptions. We came in asking whether language models think like us and stumbled into a whole universe of questions about the nature of intelligence, bias, and the very essence of what makes us human.
And who knows what other discoveries await us as we continue to explore this fascinating intersection of artificial intelligence and the human mind.
You've definitely left us with a lot to ponder today. So listeners, as you go about your day interacting with increasingly intelligent technology, remember this. The way those systems think reflects back on us, our strengths, our flaws, and our boundless capacity for both logic and a little bit of truthiness now and then. And that is your cue to keep questioning those assumptions and never stop exploring the wonders of the world around us. Until next time.